This is episode 121 with Chris Ridd. Within the XY community, we've definitely noticed a shift in mindset when it comes to fintech. Instead of questioning whether fintech is going to replace advisors, many advisors now believe fintech can actually complement them and their value proposition for clients. So if this is the case, surely the question then has to be, how can advisors leverage the power of fintech in a post-Royal Commission world? This is a great episode that doesn't just look at the possibilities of fintech, but also great leadership and what it takes to build an awesome company culture no matter what the size of the business. And with an impressive career history as a leader in tech, both as ex-CEO of Xero and now CEO of MyProsperity, Chris knows more than a thing or two about being an effective leader.
Hub24 is an ASX-listed company with over $10 billion funds under management and one of the fastest growing platforms in the market. Neither a bank nor part of a bank, Hub24 focuses entirely on connecting advisors to a broad range of investment solutions for their clients. Discover why other advisors think Hub24 are the best in the market and access the benefits of choice and efficiency for you and your clients with their market-leading managed portfolio solution. To find out more, visit hub24.com.au.
Mr. Chris Ridd.
Hello, mate. It's good to be here.
It's good to be here under such sound technical foundations with...
I'm seeing gaffer tape. I'm seeing blue tack. Mate, this is life as a startup. Mate, this is what it's all about.
Oh, yeah.
Plastic cups. Anyway.
Well, I'm just excited that we're going to be able to hear you this time compared to our last podcast that we did.
You know, that was embarrassing. Here I am as a tech guy and, it'll all work. You know, we'll do it over the internet and then it dropped out about 6 times. And
my laughter at it actually, overcompensated for, the podcast is fucking up. I was just this is the irony was just killing me. But it was good. We still got some good stuff out.
Yeah,
but
anyway, it's good to be here in person.
Yeah, it is. It's great to have you on. So we... For those that don't know out there, Chris is one of the leaders, current CEO of MyProsperity, and you've had an awesome history in terms of financial services in Australia.
Yeah, look, I've been very fortunate. Had the opportunity to work in big corporate, and then I guess late in my career make the jump into startups because not a lot of people do it, which I've been doing a bit of reading and listening to other podcasts and things, and it is a bit unusual. But what an opportunity! Running Xero and then getting involved with MyProsperity and a few other startups along the way, and learning a lot. So it's been really fun.
What sort of things have you with these startups? What have you been looking out for? Obviously you got MyProsperity, and a lot of people would have heard the story around that. But some of these other ones that you've been looking at, what do you?
Well, look, obviously I learned a lot out of the Xero experience. Not only what Xero did and what I was involved in there, but in and around the ecosystem, I saw a lot of businesses get going and do really well, and you kind of learn a bit about the formula that goes into those fintechs that make them successful. I mean, Xero in itself was a little bit of a bubble. I mean, people go, it's amazing having worked for a startup like Xero, but it's not normal to raise 450 million,
Boom.
Particularly in this part of the world. It did. It meant that we were a little spoilt because not
that was the IPO or
no, it was just on the journey. We were already listed. So
and then you did another raise.
No, it was Xero listed, and then they were just institutional investors along the journey.
Wow.
So to raise 450 million, and that kind of it's unusual, and so you get a bit spoiled. You're not short of capital, and as I learnt after Xero, capital is gold, and it's not easy to get. Yeah. And so I learnt that in 2016 because I got involved in a few fintechs or startups and different technology companies and. So what do I look for? I mean, there's 3 things. Firstly, the founders, so the people behind it was number one, and I learnt that probably the hard way because I got involved in one. And by the way, I'm not going to mention names here, right?
So,
but there was one I got involved in for probably the wrong reasons, and learnt very quickly that people made a big difference, and they were people that that I want to be able to respect and trust, and also have the passion, that sort of that burning desire to want to succeed and. And so I'd look for that. The other thing was really the compelling tech, so something I could get passionate about, so something that I really believe in. You see a lot of technology, and some of it's good ideas, but unless I really felt in my gut, that's really cool, I'd typically steer away from it. And then the third one, selfishly, was commercial upside for me. I mean, if you're gonna spend your time in something, and I always look for things that were early stage. There's a lot of good companies. There's one in particular, again, no names mentioned, but there was one that I was looking at having a tilt at the CEO role, but they'd already listed and done really well. And I was thinking, well, I'm going to be spending 3 years sort of chasing that valuation. I'd rather get involved in something where I can help shape it, and then the multiples can be...
Yeah, instead of coming in at like a P of 40 and having to
and then you just
backfill the earnings.
Yeah, look, and I didn't want to do that. And you see it often. You see, even to the point where there was one startup actually, awesome founder, awesome tech, but very racy valuation. And they were looking at a pre-IPO round, and I didn't get involved because I just felt, well, it just doesn't look realistic to me, and sure enough, it wasn't. There was, some blood down the track with them, but and it's just, I guess in summary, this is a hard space. There's a lot of people having crack at startups and technology companies and fintechs, and it's quite often, it's fraught with danger in terms of trying to pick the right ones.
Tell us about it.
And there's
Clay's nodding with a lot of understanding.
Yeah, obviously I've been in a few startups and invested in one or two as well. So yeah, it's an interesting little world.
Yeah.
We'll talk about starting up new things. We were just talking before, and you've got a bit of a new sort of hobby or pastime or would you say maybe like someone's going to, if you pay yourself, does that count as you running another business? Or
what's that? Sorry,
for the building?
Well, no, it was something. Yeah, because we were talking before I came on. Yeah, look, it's a little project. Hopefully, it's sort of little-ish. It doesn't turn into a big nightmare next year. But no, look, I have a bit of a
famous last words.
Well, I've had a bit of a bucket list item to actually build a beach house, and
that's cool.
We've got a place down the coast, and I'm going to have a crack at that. So I'm actually doing to prepare myself for that. I'm actually doing a number of building electives, which are practical kind of short course electives
at TAFE.
At TAFE.
Oh yes,
it's so good. I go in there, and it's funny because you kick off, and you're going around, and there's a lot of migrants and other people from all sorts of different backgrounds. They get to me, "What are you doing?" I run a tech company. and I'm just, I've now learnt to water it down because they're all like, what are you doing? So, but look, it's great, and I'm just learning a new skill. So, I'm 51, and my son is actually doing his pre-apprenticeship in carpentry, and he's been coming home telling me about what he's doing. I'm so jealous. I'm going, I've always wanted to, get my hands into wood and work with that and just really understand how it all works. And actually, it was funny because my brother-in-law was really handy, and he was a very senior advertising exec. And we've got another property, and he was just doing up the bathroom. And I said to him, mate, this is such an awesome job. Like, where'd you learn this? And he said, I spent 18 months, down the coast working for a builder when I finished at, the agency. And I was like, oh, it's so cool. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. It's not going to consume me, but because I'm going to stay involved in tech. But it is one of those little pet projects that I've kind of always had in the back burner.
Awesome.
And here I am. I'm actually going to do it.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I think there's something, because working in finance, financial planning and money, and it's you get soft hands. You get soft hands, don't you? And
desk hands.
Yeah, desk hands is a good way to do it. And there's something about just flipping that and doing something a bit more down to the roots.
Getting some blisters.
Getting blisters,
calluses,
all that sort of physicality, which I think is super
starting to have
important.
second thoughts now.
No, it's a different type.
Chris is looking at his hands, guys. It's just like, I really like these guys.
I'll get me back in a year. I'll come in. I'll have like a beard, and I'll be all these cuts and bruises, and maybe a missing finger,
a couple of tattoos.
But no, I won't be doing that. But no, look, it's going to be a different type of challenge, and a nice balance, because I do want to stay involved in tech, and I'm obviously going to stay involved with MyProsperity, a business I love, I think I'm really passionate about, albeit I'll be in a different sort of capacity, less operational, more strategy, as well as some other startups that I'm involved in. And I'll just see how it goes. It's going to be nice to have a little bit of... It is nice, on occasions through your career, and I've managed to have the opportunity to do it a couple of times, where you can actually sit back and reflect. And 2016, after I left Xero, because I was a bit burnt out after Xero, I was kind of... really felt I needed a bit of a break, and I did take a break, and I spent some time with family. I did a little bit of travel and some other things, and it just allowed me time just to sort of sit back and think, well, what do I want to do next? And confirmed I did want to stay in tech. and probably learnt more that year in many respects than I did in the whole 5 years at Xero, particularly about having worked with a number of different tech companies, because I didn't invest in all of them, but I did a number of projects, and it's really interesting. I still track the progress of some of those startups that I help consult, and some of them are doing well and others aren't, and it's you sort of get a bit of a feel for what the formula is. I still haven't quite figured it out, but it's a really interesting space.
I think if it was that easy to figure out, there'd be a lot of rich people cruising around.
Yeah, well, everyone's getting into startups. It must be easy.
Yes.
Piece of cake.
Yeah. A huge part of our listener base are business owners, are financial planners, and okay, so they're obviously going to be very familiar with MyProsperity, obviously coming out of nowhere a few years ago and then sort of being everywhere now. What are you finding as far as do you find that accountants or financial planners are getting the most out of that software at the moment?
Yeah, it's both. And increasingly accountants, although I would say that it's probably about 50-50, but having said that, the accountants tend to be multidisciplinary and may have an AFSL or at least an advisor or planner that they'll refer. There is a lot of consolidation, as you know, going on in the industry, with accounting firms buying up financial advice firms. And so I'd say it's 50-50. What we are seeing is accountants that are really wanting to unlock the potential of what's happening with the individual clients. So for years they might have been doing small business advisory and the books for the business, the business owner and the tax and all those things, and have really sort of overlooked the person behind the business and what's happening in their financial world. So, and that really came to the fore a year ago when we were on the road, and I was meeting with some of the old Xero partners that were interested. You've now running this, tell us about it. And they were signing up and getting clients on and going, well, we're actually unlocking a whole lot of stuff that we previously couldn't because we didn't have a platform to do it.
Yes.
So we're looking to really start to expand that. We've recently announced a partnership with Spotlight Reporting, and they're very heavily involved in that accounting space. And what they can do now is consolidated reporting. So you're looking at we very quickly got down into business, didn't we? But they can very quickly look at the business side as well as the personal side and track all that and give that to the advisor.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool tool. I played around with it.
Yeah, so that's almost ready to go live. We've been in beta for some time. So, but it really taps into the potential that we're seeing in accounting. But financial planning certainly is kind of our bread and butter.
What do you think the future of advice is? If you consider the Royal Commission, if you consider, this movement to cash flow, this movement to overall financial planning, this holistic, what do you see as the key way for an advisor to not only exist but flourish in the next, say, 5 to 10?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not going to use all the, you can pick up the paper and read all about, how we're moving away from product alignment and trial commissions going away, and it's fee for service, and it's got to be value proposition. Probably the best way to answer that question is to look at my own experience, and I've told this story a number of times about how I got involved in MyProsperity, which was back in July 2015, and I was at Xero, and I remember my advisor contacted me because he was an avid Xero partner, and obviously I'd got involved. I had the luxury as a CEO of Xero to sort of look around and go, who's the good advisors out there, But the dirty secret in Xero, I was complaining to him saying, because I was using Xero Cashbook, nothing wrong with the product, and in fact it's like a lot of the PFM, what I call PFM products on the market that just focus on cash flow and budgeting. And whilst it adds, there's certainly a place for that. What I was finding with my own finances was that whilst it was good to know where my money was going and how I could budget better, at the end of the day I still felt out of control because I had insurances sitting in a filing cabinet. I had a will, I've got, direct share portfolio. I had, Quarry Wrap, for some investments, and then a self-managed super fund and some property, and I'm going, I was saying to my advisor, look, I'm still out of control. All this stuff's everywhere. And so when he showed me MyProsperity and I started using it, to me, that was the first time I felt in control. So in answer to your question, I think the starting point for any advice, and this might sound really like I'm simplifying it, but I absolutely think that the starting point for any advisor, if you really want to add value to your clients, is just get them feeling in control. Because most of us, And I often talk about this, and you talk about all the apps out there that help you, manage your photos and manage your music and your fitness and home, stuff, and it helps us feel in control of certain parts of our life. But financial advice, or at least personal finance management, I think technology's overlooked it. And so for me, the experience of 26 years in my career, first time I turned around and said, holy shit, it's all there in one place. That's great. What a great feeling. So I think that's the starting point of advice, and technology can solve that problem. From there, of course, then it's about, once you've got the data, is understanding the client and then being able to actually provide the advice that's relevant. But what I found when I came into MyProsperity was that most advisors don't have that data. Or if they do, they're managing it at a back-end system, might be using Xplan or whatever. But typically it's not in real time. So, and they're not able to use any data analytics to really, go in and actually have the right conversations. And that's what we're seeing, really, the transformation. So that's why I got involved, because I just felt it was such a big gap, and I experienced it myself.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's a really exciting. I think what you're saying before around financial planning or financial advice just being completely overlooked. It's so true, and it's still, there's this time lag that's still playing out. Like it's still early days for some of the cool stuff that's going to be coming through. So it's really, really exciting.
Well, the good thing is there's a lot of really good innovation coming in. Whether it be robo advice or there's a whole. I mean, there's what was it? Something about $15.2 billion that was invested in Fintech last year. That's globally, and so I think. Certainly, advisors are not going to be starved with choice. It's really a matter of understanding what's going to help them make the transition. I think at the moment with the Royal Commission that we're finding a lot of advisors are really concerned, and it's almost like they're in fear of making decisions because they're just wanting to see how things play out. And I understand that. I mean, someone really close to me, I should be really careful. No, I can say it. My brother was a financial advisor. I only hesitate because he just sold his business.
Right.
But it's been a really interesting dynamic but in our family, because here's me kind of riding the wave of technology, seeing the opportunity that the Royal Commission brings for technology to help advisors. And obviously we're benefiting from that. And on the other hand, my brother, who's a financial advisor, had his own AFSL, has for 17 years, and deciding, what, time's up. The Royal Commission has made it really hard. Additional compliance, FASIA, the fact that, let's face it, it hasn't helped the profile of financial advisors to clients. Some clients are now really questioning them. Not too dissimilar to a lot of financial advisors, where he has a reliance on trail commissions through some of the insurance that he sold over that journey, and some that are active and looking at it and just weighing it up. And I said to him, hey, what about MyProsperity? And this is one of the things we're finding is that, this is the difference between advisors. He didn't want to embrace technology. He's never been into technology. I'm going, this can help, and it's like, no, I'm getting out. So he's out.
That's where they're like, Chris, you're not taking care of sales anymore. You couldn't even sell your own brother.
That's right. I should. If I'm going to get a job in sales, I shouldn't tell that story. It's like, couldn't even sell it to your own brother. But no, I think it's been a really.
We've never got it on.
It's been a real, because it's really close to home, and seeing that play out, because it's not just because we're out pitching technology, but what it's helped me really understand, and I've seen this because I know a lot of the advisors out there that are really struggling, because it is a difficult time for a lot of them to understand, how do I survive and in fact thrive post Royal Commission?
Yeah.
But I'm a huge believer that technology can play a massive role in that. But some will elect to get out, and I think that's going to happen more and more. We're going to see a lot of people leave the industry, not just because of FASIA, but that is a big. That is a big requirement, and it's one that a lot of because in my vintage, and Andrew is 15 months older than me. That's my brother. And he said, well, I'm not going to go back to uni. I mean, and a lot aren't, and he's a bloody good financial advisor.
Yeah.
So he's offered me a lot of stuff over the years. He's really good, but, and that's a loss for the industry. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a, it's the flip side of, I guess, raising the bar. It's sort of, unfortunately, there's going to be some people that are amazing out there that aren't going to be.
Yeah, I think long term, 5-10 years in the future, we'll be all very happy that these increased requirements have come in, but in the meantime, it's going to be a fair few casualties in the form of your brother, but also, which is a loss to the industry. It'd be great to interview him.
Yeah, we should
keep some of that. Keep some of that.
What's
IP
it like
in
on the other
industry.
side?
Oh, mate, see, he's got a little acreage down near the coast now, so he's actually looking at a complete change, which is great. So,
is he into surfing and guitar as well?
no, but he's into labouring, and I think I'm going to hire him to help me with the beach house. So,
Convenient timing. I was going to say around the Royal Commission. So everyone's like, we're talking about the public perception, but I think what's really hitting there's been issues with public perception. That's always a problem. But when you're dealing with that and you're confident about what you're doing, you know where your business is going, your business, you know what your proposition is. There's no threats against your proposition and what you're doing and how you do things. Yeah. The difference about the current situation, I don't think the Royal Commission would be hurting as much with advisors personally without everything else that's going on. So they're sitting there second guessing how they've been doing things for a lot of years.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, look, I am generalising because you're right. There are a number of advisors out there that are, I think, going to absolutely smash it because it was really interesting actually. I presented at a conference and look, my background's not financial advice industry, right? So it's been a real learning curve for me. But I presented at this conference and after I'd finished, I was chatting to a few guys, and there was one in particular who was really switched on. And I said, because here's me thinking Royal Commission, bad for industry, bad for everyone, it's going to be a lot of uncertainty, blah, 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 talking to my brother, talking to others, it's all evil. And he goes, no, bring it on. Like, it's overdue. Like, we've got to clean it up. And we are seeing a lot of advisors that are really getting on the front foot, and they'll do really well, and good on them because, like you say, they're confident. They've already, and this is one of the things. There's most advisors out there have been doing the right thing or really trying to do the right thing by the clients. And this is now an opportunity, I think, to really look at, okay, well, there's nothing like, compliance and regulation to change the way things need to be done. And there's some that are in an awesome position to really capitalise on that. So I think what we're going to see is you're going to see some financial advisors really do well, and so I don't want to generalise. There's people looking at it quite differently.
Well, I think within the next, as that lag on technology catches up, I think that's going to really close the gap for a lot of people. So a lot of people's pain is going to disappear as the technology gap closes around the compliance requirements.
Yeah,
and I guess hopefully one of the outcomes of the Royal Commission is that things get. Like you get the same intent and the outcome that it's looking to see, but you get a bit of a condensing of what the requirements are, and it's a bit more streamlined.
Yeah.
And if you get that, then things will be back on track, and there's going to be happy advisors out there.
Yeah, but I come back to the point. I think whether it's us or other innovators in the market, there are a lot of, you mentioned compliance, and when I'm obviously having been a client of financial advisor, I understand some of the compliance requirements, but. You take things like fact find, right? I mean, that's horrendous how it's been done today. And, we started looking at that and just in the process of launching a digital fact find, which is basically a client wizard that uses a lot of data that's already in the platform. So you're not actually having to repeat a whole lot of stuff, right? So
interesting.
And it produces this really nice experience. And every time we demo it, people just go, oh my God, because they're looking at it going, well, what you do today, it's paper. So it lives in files, and the client experience is horrendous, right? So
double handling.
I come back to a point. You are now dealing as an advisor. You're dealing with clients that are informed about good tech, right? They are using all of these great apps to run their lives, and suddenly you make them fill out a friggin'
PDF
paper form.
printed out.
It's horrendous. Why do that to your client? Even things like simple stuff like, and I know I've been advocating this for years, but MyProsperity, so we have digital doc signing in the platform. Now, there's a lot of, you don't have to use ours. There's other technologies available, but the number of advisors that are making clients print out documents, sign them, scan them, and send them back via email, it's just unforgivable. They should be shot. No, I go a bit far, but seriously, the technology's not new, and it's actually more secure. The way that these platforms work around digital document signing, it's more secure than a wet signature in many cases. We won't go into all that, but think about it. Like, we've had partners that have gone, well, we went with your platform because we've got digital doc signing and it's saving us weeks, because the turnaround with clients all over the place was taking, on average, 2 months to get stuff back, and now it's taking a matter of a couple of weeks. So there's all that. There's a whole lot of opportunities there. Even the guys, we had a look at, you probably have him on your program at some point, but Joel from Nod. Joel Robbie. And,
Yeah.
looking at what those guys are doing using AI to actually produce statements of advice based on similar clients. Like, that's really clever. Like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because, my situation is going to be similar to a lot of other clients. So why not try and use AI to determine, well, this is how you would build a statement of advice for someone of Chris's profile. I don't know how it all works in the background, but it just seems like a really clever concept. But, SOAs can take so much effort, and that's a compliance requirement. So why don't you use the technology to do the heavy lifting? So I guess the theme here is there's so much good technology that's going to take away the stuff that, quite frankly, as an advisor, you really don't want to do.
Absolutely.
You don't want to do that. Like, I saw that when I was at Xero with accounting. I remember, so you're looking at data entry, right? So, the fact that you could now read receipts and do all this, bank feeds coming in. Data, in the early days, data entry, it was the death of data entry, right? And albeit that we had some bookkeepers going, oh, you're putting me out of business. But I'm going, dude, if you are into data entry as your value proposition,
that's not
I can't help you. It's not a sustainable business model. So the technology doing the heavy lifting, and this is what we're going to see more of. So if you want to scale, if you want to, have compliance that's taken care of from technology, and do what what went into business to do as a financial advisor, which is sit in front of clients and actually provide advice and help them achieve their financial goals. That's what most advisors got into it for.
Yes.
So I think what we're going to see post-Royal Commission is a wonderful opportunity with technology really coming to the fore and actually helping the industry do a lot better and provide actually better results for clients.
I'm super interested to see if there's a solution that nails it. Because if you think about it, Mark Boris did remarkably well with Wizard and then leaves to start Yellow Brick Road and then very quickly realizes that it's a lot harder in financial planning than it is in mortgages. And the strange thing is, to date, no one has cracked that code. So the financial planning industry is hugely fragmented. It's still, you can have one-man bands, and there's no giant player that's been able to nail it. With all these tech options coming in, and being in tech now for a little while, I've finally realized why tech exists. So, for example, in XY Advisor, we only do something with tech now if the manual process has become so frequent that we have to figure out a way to automate it. And so tech, rather than just being this thing for everything, which Adrian would love it to be, it's now very specifically to automate manual items that go far too long. So I'm interested, and I can't wait for someone, because the moment that someone actually figures out a way to automate a lot of this financial advice stuff in a good way, I think we will finally see a big player in the financial planning market, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, look, it's a good point. I don't think tech's going to replace the need. I had a situation last week where, I really needed to speak to my financial advisor about some stuff, and no amount of robo-advice or do-it-yourself or anything is going to replace that, because he knows my situation, and some of it was tricky, and it was just that peace of mind knowing I could pick up the phone and actually have that conversation.
Yeah.
But in the background of that, he's got all my data, right? So he's not sort of having to ask all this question. I'd imagine, that would happen a lot. And we have a lot of advisors, we're just sick of, we're using your platform because we're sick of people coming in and just having to ask all these stupid questions. We should know. And it's really hard to have that data. But, do you still have that investment property or, whatever it might be. But so that doesn't replace it. I come back to the point of helping people get in control, because you talk about technology helping. It was interesting. We were quoting recently. What was it? Anyway, I was on another podcast, I think. It was talking about Investment Trends survey about 2 years ago that said that 92% of Australians are worried about their financial situation, which is a lot. Right, and this is why Scott Pape's books sell so well. Read some of that stuff. And it's really good tips, and because everyone's concerned. I can almost say everyone, because it's 92%. But only 14% of Australians use a financial planner. Right, and so you think about where is it going. I do think, I'll come back, and this is one of the reasons I got involved in MyProsperity, and this is not a plug just for MyProsperity, but I do think the starting point for any good advice is just helping clients feel in control. They're all going to be different, so no one's going to have, millions of dollars or anything, but even someone just starting out to know that, okay, there's my personal balance sheet, I've set up my team, right, okay, I've got my insurance in one place, okay, I've got a basic will, but it's all in one place, and I know where it is.
Yeah.
And then you can set some goals. Okay, I'm going to set some goals to save money.
Yep.
Blah, 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 et cetera, right up to the high net worth family office where they've got sophisticated investments with all sorts of structures and lots of documents and shareholdings and things, again, all in one place. It's actually surprising. You speak to some of the really big accounting and other financial planning firms, they're like, family office is really sophisticated. But you speak to anyone running a family office, they're just as much out of control. They just show me on a mobile app where all the shit is.
Yeah,
I just want to know, how much am I worth?
Yeah.
And where are those bloody documents?
Yeah.
And that's what we solve. So, I mean, I just think that's, and then from there, I think that's the starting point. I'd love to see our mission, because we don't go direct, it's all about the advisor. I would love to see that 14% be 40% one day.
Absolutely.
And that's our hope that that'll happen. Now, it probably won't, but, we firmly believe the advice industry is not going to go away.
Yeah.
But it does need to change. It's changing, albeit, with a bit of sort of negative flair going on around it. But I think combination of technology and good advice, I think, is where we want to see it head. Yeah,
it's definitely a new frontier to be delivered to the marketplace.
Yeah.
So besides building, how do you? I always like hearing about like your experience managing people and like running people in an organisation, because I guess a lot of our listeners are. They're managing people or trying to.
Yeah.
What would be some of your top tips to people when?
Well, I sort of grew up in big corporate, and started my career, I won't mention the name of the company, but, it was a really blokey culture. And, you're just out of uni. You don't really know good from bad. You're sort of like, oh, this is what corporate's like. It wasn't until years later reflecting back that I thought, that was it wasn't toxic culture, but it wasn't healthy. I spent 15 years at Microsoft, and Microsoft was was for me a great organisation to work in. Very entrepreneurial culture, particularly when I got started in there back in the mid-90s, and also worked under some amazing leaders. One of whom now is running Xero, which is Steve Amos. So he was my mentor in the sort of latter days. He ended up going off to the US, but now he's taken over Rod's role. So. And Steve, like a lot of leaders that I sort of came through with, and Microsoft very much from the outset was big on investing in people, and was strong on the importance of leadership and culture. And so I sort of had that ingrained in me, and bringing that into a small startup. You don't necessarily need all those bits, but it was interesting actually running Xero, because I started at Xero with 6 staff and ended up...
Get out of town.
No, it was 6 staff, and they ended up, when I left, there was 300.
Wowzers.
Yeah, and I got marched out of there by HR. So don't ask me about culture. No. It was a great experience, but, I was kind of tapping into a lot of what I'd seen and sort of learned along that journey. I think, for me, good cultures and... if it comes to leadership, it's firstly understanding your own leadership style and not trying to be anyone else. It's also, just some of the things on that, leaders cast long shadows. So people watch every move. And so there's really interesting things at play in organisations where certain behaviours, I think really importantly, you've got to you need a set of values that you kind of all stand for, which people kind of rally behind. Have diverse cultures, yep, that's really, really important. But I think, have some sort of values that you sort of instill that really reflect who you are as an organisation, and ensure that all the behaviours sort of map into that. Because what can often happen is, we've all heard of organisations have values, but it's kind of, BS. They don't really live it. And this is one of the things. Sometimes those little small behaviours that you actually look past can really define the culture, and people notice it. People aren't silly. So, if there's I won't give you an example. If something happens, or there's a discussion, or if there's a problem within the team or whatever, and leaders sort of don't do anything about it, that's the worst thing. Like things drag on and fester and so forth. Suddenly people start leaving, and so I reckon one of the key things I've learned is really be on top of the behaviours that you want to drive within the organisation, and really be visible about reinforcing those behaviours. Culture's a really fickle thing. You can lose it very quickly. And so I think that's just something you've got to work on. The other thing is, I think, building a strong leadership team, because you can't do it all. Like, you look at these organisations, you've got awesome leaders, and you go, they're amazing. But usually beneath them, there's a really awesome team that really have their back, and that really understand how to support one another. And that needs to flow through the organisation in terms of the sort of culture and values that you're trying to instill within.
With the I guess like all leaders, no one's perfect. Everyone's always got preferences in the way they behave and stronger skills than otherwise.
Yep.
Is that what you use to go, okay, well, I'm good over here. I've always struggled over here. I really want to be better over here, and you put effort into it. But as much as you sort of try in a space that is really not your cup of tea, is that how you identify who comes in and supports to close gaps like that?
Yeah, potentially. But that in itself is a really good point around leadership style, because I think in an old school organisation, the leader feels that they need to know everything and that they need to either want to have all the answers and appear strong and really, in control. One of the things I learned, I remember when Vamos first came to Microsoft, and there's a notion and a terminology going around at the moment, if you read a lot of stuff on leadership around this notion of vulnerability. So a leader that has vulnerability is one that will freely admit, I don't have all the answers, or they'll admit mistakes, or they'll demonstrate vulnerability in a way that people just, it's so empowering within an organisation if a leader can stand up and go, and this is what Vamos did, he said, look, I know we have some challenges in the business. And he said, I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm not coming in here with all the answers, but I reckon within this room we can figure it out, right? So suddenly we're like, shit. It's like, so he's asking for help. So he doesn't have all the answers. Shit, I want to help this guy because he's just so genuine and authentic. And so, and it was authentic, and it needs to be authentic. So that's the other thing. Authenticity is really, really important. You can't bullshit people.
Yeah.
So
you can't, can you?
You cannot. You cannot.
Yeah.
So, and that was one of the things I learned really early on was like, it's okay not to have the answer. And to be able to turn to yourself and go, look, hey, look, I'm feeling really shit about this, or man, that didn't go the way I wanted it to, or I made a big mistake here. And look, and it's really funny how it's it just gives people permission to want to come and help. And the last thing you want to do is, be really, that sort of dominant. It's not my style anyway, but to be that really full-on dominant character. Because what you do basically is shut down debate, or you shut down ideas. Some of the best ideas throughout my journey have come from people that have just sort of walked in and gone, hey, you're talking about that thing. What if we tried this? Or, and it's like, it might be someone that's like a level or two down, and you just go, oh, that's a really good idea, actually. Let's have a chat about that. So, and that's what you want. You want that creativity to sort of come from the ground up, because quite often it's the people out, that are in front of partners every day or customers every day are the ones that are going to have some really good ideas, or at least they're going to give you the signals to say, what, we're on the wrong track.
Yeah. And
it's really, really important because that keeps your finger on the pulse. There's so many benefits that come with that. But yeah, there's some of the things I've kind of learned along the journey.
And I guess like as a leader, you've always got, there's a long list of things that you got to achieve and do, and there's a whole lot of priorities. How do you go about prioritizing? Oh
God, that's a hard one. I think I think again as a leadership team, the most important priorities really come down to setting the strategic direction of the business, and if it's in the short to medium term, if it's all about revenue, then that has to be the priority that you set for the business, because that's important. You've got to have money coming in. There may be a range of challenges in the business. I think it's a matter of the leadership team to agree that, and then basically go and do it. And that sounds really basic, I know, but I think that again, it comes down to understanding and figuring that out at a leadership team at a strategic level, and then prioritising accordingly. But it's the biggest challenge, isn't it? Because particularly if you're in the box seat as CEO, there's so many things to do. So, you can't do them all. And I think delegation is one of the biggest challenges. So there's a whole lot of things that come out of that question.
Do you subscribe to the it's what you say no to that defines?
Yeah, definitely. I know that certainly, if I think back, probably the most relevant would have been Xero, where, in the early days there was a hell of a lot of stuff that was falling in my lap and opportunities coming out of every different, direction, and lots of people coming, we've got the silver bullet to help you grow and all this sort of stuff. And I learned the hard way, because I went down a rat hole with one particular partnership that went nowhere. And I spent months kind of backing this thing. I was like, And so I learned to say no, to really suss things out and decide early and really stick to what's going to move the needle. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think... then they're not always popular decisions when you say no.
Actually, that's a really good topic. For the advisors out there that are looking to grow their business, as someone who's been a part of a huge amount of growth, what would you say is the best thing they could do to grow their business?
Oh, sign up to MyProsperity. Oh, you led me into that one. No, look, I think right now, I think you've just got to focus on the client, because I think the industry, like I saw this when I came in, that there was so much focus on the back end administration and all this, compliance and blah, 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 and I'm sure there's some advisors doing it phenomenally well. But I just think, understanding how you're going to best service your client. I even spoke to one the other day who said, what's your focus right now? He said, figuring out which clients to fire. And I went, cool, yeah, that's a good one. That's hard. But he said, but we've got a lot of unprofitable clients. It's forced us, everything that's going on has forced us to go back and look at who we are and what we want to be, and then what are the services and then the type of clients that we want to build. And that means that there's certain clients that are just wasting our time or just not generating any upside for the business. So that's their focus. So I think it's just I think right now is a really good time to just go back and reassess what do you actually want to be as a business. What do you want to stand for? What's your mission? What do you, where do you want to be in 5-10 years? Do you want to be in the industry? Do you want to sell up? Blah blah blah, and just sort of figure out a strategic plan and go forward. Some of them are already there and doing it and doing well.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're sort of towards the end of the podcast. But Chris, before we duck out,
yes,
anything you'd like to share about upcoming activity with MyProsperity? People to look out for, anything in particular?
MyProsperity. So you're typically going into a quiet time of year where we're winding down for Christmas. It's not that far away. And I'm always of the view that, particularly having been through that myself, you got a lot of clients that are going to come into January and they're going to be thinking, shit, I need to get my finances sorted out.
Yeah.
It's an awesome time.
So Christmas cards, is that right?
No. I reckon if you're thinking about technology, have a look at what we're doing. Is it all right if I give this a plug?
Mate,
so,
absolutely.
Right. So
yeah, correct.
Get online on our website.
Yes.
Book a demo.
Yep.
Just book a demo and we'll set something up over Zoom and show you the product. But I think December, Jan is the time. December in particular, as things start to wind down. Yep, go and have your long lunches, but start investing some time figuring out how 2019 you can do things differently, because our technology can really help drive that and do it quickly. So get online, book a demo, we'll show you how it works, and your clients are going to love it in January. So
I got a product question.
Yep.
Are you getting many advisors using MyProsperity as a lead generation tool?
We are. In fact, client acquisition.
Yeah.
It's on the increase, definitely, because you've got to think about it. If you've got an advisor that's asking you to fill out a fact form on paper, it ain't a good experience.
Yeah.
But if you're an advisor that can go, hey, here's my branded app, because we can do branded apps for clients.
It's great.
You got the whole client experience. So they walk out of your office with their financial world in their back pocket.
Yep.
That's cool. So definitely we're seeing more innovative advisors wanting to get on board, and we provide that out of the box as a white label app, or you can have your own branded app.
Yep.
No better way to have that digital engagement, because I think what a lot of advisors now thinking, how do I remain relevant to the new demographic coming through that are more tech savvy?
Correct.
And you'd be surprised, even some of the pre-retirees, they're all using apps. So you should have one.
Yes.
So I think definitely and this is exactly what played out at Xero. We had, because, and I'm not trying to make a big statement, but Xero cloud accounting transformed the industry. It really did.
Oh, mate, of course.
And, you look at it now and, we were seeing advisors, accountants that, your typical career roadmap for an accountant way back when was, stay in a big firm, work 20 years, become a partner, just go through that whole journey. We started seeing accountants leaving, these young, innovative, typically young, not always, but often young, innovative, tech-savvy accountants going, man, I'm going to use technology to get a leg up. And, I remember one of them, funny story, I had dinner with one of the big firms, and I had this young guy, just, product champion for Xero. And he said, oh, I've resigned. I went, no. Oh, it's like one of our strategic accounts. This is in the early days. And he goes, but you just made it really easy for me to do this on my own now. And then he came to XeroCon about 8 months later. How you going? He's got 124 clients.
Yeah, what?
So that was his acquisition, was going to small business going, how you doing your accounting? Let me show you a better way. And they go, oh, my God, that's so cool. So he was using Xero.
Yeah.
And then some of the add-ons as a differentiation point, and we're seeing that now with MyProsperity.
Yeah,
so
I
you're
know
a young
advisors
advisor,
that have done exactly that.
come and I'll show you how advice can be different.
Yeah.
We'll get you in control.
Yeah.
You got a mobile app.
Yeah.
You got everything in one place.
If I think back to my advice days when I used to do cash flow, I used to do a lot of cash flow, and the moment where and I had this awesome Excel spreadsheet where we'd put how much they receive after tax, how frequently, yada, 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 and then spread across fixed cost bucket and all these different. And for the first time ever, they saw their day-to-day financial life in front of them on a big screen. And that there was always a palpable moment where they went, that's me. That's my life. That is... And they look at me and they go, wow, you're the guy that's able to put my entire my day-to-day financial life in front of me.
Yeah.
And so basically what you're saying is MyProsperity does something like that, but for all the different future and long-term aspects of their life and their assets and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, mate, look, it's awesome to have you on. This time we didn't even cut out, and if we stop moving,
video's still rolling.
Yeah, exactly. So we got through. Appreciate it, bud.
Good on you. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Chris.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.